Hello, hello. Welcome to another Monday night. I'm so tempted to say Monday Night Raw, but that's a different show. But yes, welcome to Mondays. This is Den Mother, and welcome to the lovely channel. If you're just tuning in, tonight we have a very special segment for TTRPG talks. Usually I have TTRPG talks, the show where I bring a lovely individual behind the desk and we talk about all things TTRPG. Usually have a focus on one of the systems and we just share our love for that specific system. But today it's gonna be uh, I wouldn't say antagonistic. It's just more of a good, clean conversation about two different editions under one roof under Mage. If you guys know, Mage has had a lot of editions, as with most systems. Like Dungeons and Dragons has 5 editions as of now, and well, five, six if you're gonna separate 3 and 3.5. But that's besides the point. Today we are going to have a debate between a discussion between the pros and cons of both editions. And of course, since we're talking about Mage, we're definitely gonna have um, you know the guests that we had a talk about Mage back on the desk. That's Jay. Hello, Jay. Say hi to people.
Hey, hello everyone.
Yes, and what's even more special about this stream is we're literally gonna be on TV. So let me just swap up the scene real quick. We're gonna be on TV.
All right.
Yes. And oop, where's my face? There you go. Yeah, we're on TV, guys, literally. So we got TVs on the
Not bad,
desk.
not bad.
Um, we're gonna have our faces shown while we're having this lovely, lovely debate, and um, as the kids would say, "Sikat na kami, we're on TV, mom." No, I'm just kidding. Uh, so yeah, we have Jay. We've introduced Jay, and in the last discussion of TTRPG talk, we had a lovely conversation about Ascension, a bit of Awakening. The last time he was here with Christine. So
Yes.
it was a fun conversation. It's actually one of those one of the episodes in TTRPG Talk that had a lot of engagement, and even after the episode, a lot of people were messaging me about Mage, like, "Hey, do you guys have a slot on Mage?" There's some pick up interests on my end after that lovely episode, and they found it very insightful. There's like people listening to it after because I would post the pod highlights. So it's one of those episodes that really got people listening. So thank you for that. Um, so today's stream, we're going to be we're going to have a debate on Ascension versus Awakening. I think
Yes.
I think Ascension came out first, and then
That's right.
Awakening. Yes.
Yeah.
So um, what was like the year difference? I'm assuming it was just like years after Ascension they made Awakening.
Yeah, I think it was about a year or 2 years after. Because they did this whole big end of the World of Darkness thing in 1999 with the Time of Judgment,
Oh
where they
wow.
basically slaughtered all of the old World of Darkness titles with like capstone products that talked about how each and every game line ended, and after that, it was like, okay, so now what? And they launched the new World of Darkness, and I think it took a couple more years after that because they had to launch Vampire and Werewolf ahead before eventually getting around to Mage.
Yeah, sounds cool. As with most debates, just I wanted to give a quick disclaimer for people. We're not gonna be at each other's throats like saying, "Oh, this is the better system. This is the better system." No, we're just gonna be doing some compare and contrasts. What are the strengths what are the weaknesses of the systems, and just have good clean fun so you guys get to see the differences. What's the difference with Awakening? What's the difference with Ascension? And we're gonna put a bit of parameters uh, for this debate, this informal debate. We're only sticking to the 20th anniversary edition of Ascension and the second edition of Awakening. Is that correct? Or will you be pulling some
Yep.
references from the first ed?
No, I'll stick to second that.
Okay, all right. So we're just sticking to those particular editions because there's the first, like, there's Awakening first and second, and then Mage has there's 20th anniversary, and I think there was a previous edition before that. So we're just sticking to the updated versions of these two systems for our debate. And I think to start, before we start any discussions, we're going to give a quick intro of our systems. And of course, I'm going to give Jay the floor to discuss what is, in a nutshell, Mage the Awakening.
Okay. Right. So Mage the Awakening is uh, billed as a game of modern sorcery, and very much in line with the thrust of the New World of Darkness as a horror game. Awakening is a game focused on people who have magic and who do horrible things with it. So, from the perspective of a lot of people, if you're looking for a game where you get to play sorcerers along the line of, say, um, Harry Dresden or John Constantine, then you're looking at Mage the Awakening. We're talking about people who make skeevy deals with powers so that they can get what they want and they don't take no for an answer. So that's essentially what you have. You have occult mysteries to pursue. You have the biggest assembly of villains and antagonists that you could possibly have in all of the New World of Darkness arrayed against you, and there's plenty of fun to be had in getting into trouble.
Ooh, nice. You mentioned occult. Like, does that mean? I remember the last time we had a conversation about Awakening. You kind of mentioned that it's kind of like Call of Cthulhu, but with mages. So it's like it's more of the investigations per se.
Yeah, I would say that yes. The central theme for Awakening Second Edition was addicted to mystery. So mages in particular are they never stop looking at things that are mysterious with a capital M in this particular setting. So there's a lot of stuff that even their own magical paradigm can't explain. So there's a lot of stuff that drives them forward, whether or not it's for power, personal gain, clout among other mages, um, other ambitions that fuel them. Mage the Awakening is all about just how badly do you want something and what are you willing to do to get it.
Awesome, awesome. So there's an ambition to achieve for Awakening. That's cool. I guess that's a really good, concise intro for Awakening. And for me, I don't know how to properly explain Ascension beyond uh, my experience. I've only been running Ascension for a good 2 months, I believe. We're hitting our third month this coming end of the month. So that's good. Though it's only encompassed about 5 sessions so far. And I got to experience Ascension in previous runs with storyteller Ches. And hi, hi there, Jay and everyone here. Hello, hi Ribs. Finally get a chance to check your stream live. Thank you, Ribs. Thank you for tuning in. We're talking about Mage, the different Mage systems in this stream, Awakening and Ascension. And my introduction for Ascension is more or less from the keyword ascension, your goal is to ascend, and there's like many like ascension to ascend. Wow. But more or less, it's you kind of play sleepers who suddenly awaken to have these kinds of magical powers, and you realize, oh, there's magic, in the world, and you get to figure out different cabals and different existing magical institutions and traditions, and you're trying to make your way through the world, trying to understand your abilities, and getting to that high level of magic. That's how I generally understand Ascension. Sorry if I'm like they have a term for me as a storyteller for Mage where I oversimplify the system. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that is my kind of like sales pitch for Ascension. If you guys want to play um, like those underdog kind of scenarios where you've suddenly waken up to uh, have these kinds of sets of powers set in the modern scene. I think off the top of my head, I imagine Heroes. I don't know if you guys caught the series Heroes. That's kind of like the gist of Mage. There's also um, like a bit of X-Men when the kids were starting out. That's also a good thing. Um, Ribs, if only I've never played Mage, might not have heard of it before, so listen. I only played D&D and some homebrew systems. Yeah, sure. Like that's D&D is a great gateway to try out other systems, and for Mage, this is like kind of like a old school, but it has some players. It has a lot of players as of recent, and it's really cool to try new systems, like what Jay said. So, are there anything I missed in Ascension? Because like I just wanted to give that small
I
intro.
I yeah. I think if anything for Ascension, you might want to call on the whole conflict between technology and wonder, that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
again, I guess that's one possible theme you can run with.
yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing that Ascension tries to say is like, technology is magic too. Like, there's no distinction on the sciences or something, unless you're like the Order of Reason or the Technocratic Union. So they really put a distinction on the magic being used for those avenues. That's how I understand it. But generally, magic, everything is magic. For Mage the Ascension, everything that you can do is because of magic with a K. And magic with a K. I don't
Magic
know.
with a K. Can't forget that K.
Yeah, I don't know why they have the K there, but that is my introduction to Ascension. So, a few things that we're gonna cover for the debate is how does character creation work? How does the magic system work? And how does it translate to the storytelling dynamic? Because the publisher, White Wolf Publishing, are now called Onyx Path. They're known for their storytelling system, um, a very unique system that's not like it. You can curate other systems and try it on other storylines, but that's mainly their shtick. They created that, so we'll discuss that here. Declaring biases first. We gotta clear things out of the way. Of course, on the side of Awakening, we got Jay. How long have you been playing Awakening? Um, without giving away your age, how like?
No, it's fine. Uh, I'm trying to remember when exactly Awakening came out, but the moment it came out, I actually bought the first edition book, and I haven't really stopped.
Oh, nice. And you started with Awakening, correct? Like,
No, I actually started with Ascension. Back
oh,
in '97. So I started in '97, finished the entire revised edition until the Time of Judgment in '99. Then when they ended it, I followed them onto the new one, to Awakening, and I also bought into the 20th anniversary when they launched it.
oh wow. Oh, okay. So you've been there when the sacred texts were written.
Well, not that far, but it was already the third revision when I got it. So,
All right, but that's cool. I only started Ascension, I think sometime in the, I believe it was 2020, 2020, soft 2020. Yeah, because like I think I got into the play by posts last year, which has or probably like a way before that. I just remembered I was in Discord. I think it was. I think it's early 2020. I'm gonna check the server date because there is a server date. Oh, 2019. Cool. So I've been playing it since 2019, around July. So it's actually my anniversary for the time I've been playing the game. So I've been only playing it for 2 years, and I've been being in it for like a few months. So I'm declaring that I have my bias for Ascension because that's where I'm most exposed and most of where my arguments will come from is my experience with Ascension. So that's I'm declaring that bias. And I guess with you, um, on why you're choosing,
Awakening then.
yeah, and why you're choosing Awakening for this debate. Um,
Well, I choose Awakening because I do feel that it's a superior horror game.
yes. Um, so it has the horror element. Yeah, I feel like um, you really have to shoehorn the horror in Ascension for it to feel like Ascension, for it to feel
Yes.
like horror. But beyond
Yep.
that, it's pretty chill and laid back in the horror aspect. So, okay, so we're gonna go first with the first
Hey.
question for the arguments. Uh, this is gonna cover the game concept, the mechanics, and character creation, which is our coverage. Are the systems, both Awakening and Ascension, newbie friendly? So that is. You feel free to answer first. Hello. Okay. Wala ka. Hello, folks. Did I mute you? No, I didn't mute you. I'm not picking up. Hello. Okay, we're having technical difficulties real quick. So, let me center this real quick. There you go. Hello. Wait. Can you try getting it out of the call? I'll put you on glitch mode.
Try again. Hello.
Yay! Okay, we're
Hey,
good.
sorry about that. Don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened as well, but you're okay. So our first question for the debate
Already
is
paradox is kicking my ass. But okay.
yeah, the paradox is, oh no, did we cast anything? But anyways, so our is Mage the Awakening particularly for you newbie friendly in terms of game concept, mechanics, character creation. So we'll
I
start with your
Yeah.
argument.
Okay. Newbie friendly. Awakening. I would say yes. You don't have 20 years of backstory to catch up on. Um, the the game systems themselves for spellcasting are a little more forgiving as opposed to Ascension, which tends to hinge very heavily on your paradigm. They did away with that, so it's much easier to go to the real meat of the story, I guess, which is um, going out and getting into trouble rather than trying to justify every spell that you cast as something or how you're able to do that. In terms of the systems, they're easy enough. I mean, you don't have complex calculations for character creation. It's just literally distributing dots to a pool of points to your attributes and skills. And I guess the trickier part is probably explaining the various arcana, which are the various areas of reality that you can alter as a mage. The difficulty for that one, I guess, would lie in just trying to uh, get people to understand that while there is a spell list in the book, you're actually not restricted to the spells that are given in the game, and that the game actually actively encourages you to be creative in your spellcasting, whatever it is you can think of, as long as you have the magical aptitude for it, as determined by your choice of arcana. Then it's you're free to try, and if anything, the game actually encourages you to try even at risk. So, but that's something that we can get to a little later. But yeah, in terms of ease of getting people into it, yeah, you don't have to grill them as to like what paradigm are you using, what kind of belief system are you working on, and there's a whole lot of streamlining that's been done, both with regards to the basic mechanics as well as the combat mechanics, ever since the old Ascension system. So I feel that in terms of like getting people up and running, it should actually be a lot faster.
Yeah. Um, so wait, but before that, I just want to bring up like when I streamed creating a character in Awakening. Surprisingly, I was able to make it in under an hour, which is not usual for my
Yeah,
character creation. The only thing that I struggled with definitely in terms of like the first page, pretty straightforward. I look at the PDF, look at that, and thanks to the guidance of Mick, who is currently in chat right now. Thank you for helping me out that day. In terms of like the road systems and stuff, as long as you know where to look, like they tell you go to page like this, go to page like this, and then. But I made it in under an hour. That's removing the spell casting. But character creation wise, getting the concept going, getting to the arcana, they tell you which dots to go where, and I think that's really interesting for me because like usually I take longer than that to create a character for the storytelling systems. He also, and I think Archangel, this is Mick. He said maybe my experience with first ed makes me think mage in general isn't newbie friendly, or maybe it's just the spell casting bit that's complicated. We'll definitely get to the. I think that's a good thing because we're gonna be discussing uh, the magic system in one of the rebuttal sections. So
right.
tune in for
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
In terms of so that's a good case in point for awakening. You can definitely get people in it. And I think one of the strong aspects of it is, like you mentioned, horror, and you don't have to explain paradigms, you don't have to explain belief systems. You could just go in and get them into their arcanas, which in Ascension it's spheres. So
Right.
I would agree to that. Very difficult to explain paradigms from the get go. um, so in my experience, in terms of making it newbie friendly, if you're gonna take the system of Ascension on face value, um, it's not exactly friendly in a sense that it's very overwhelming in terms of lore. You have to explain a lot of things to people in terms of what make players watch and make sure it's where Morpheus explains things to Neo. Yes, exactly. That's what it feels like sometimes, where you have to give like this information dump, like you have to dedicate at least a few days for people to get into the mindset of the lore. Because a lot of people started their games with Dungeons and Dragons. So this, um, oh my god, thank you, thank you, thank you, Red. Thank you, Mark, for subscribing. Oh my god, thank you, bless you, thank you for dropping by. Um, so yeah, the thing with the explaining the lore, at least for Ascension, it was very difficult for me to uh kind of like I had to like the word is dumbing it down for me to get it to like I had to strip it to a very simplified explanation just to get people in. But if you are gonna treat it like face value, just give them the book, all 900 pages, and expect them to go through it and sift through it to understand concepts of paradigm, which is where your magic stems from. It's I think the words that Jay picked before, which is high concept, that is that is Ascension. It's it gets very philosophical, which is good for some people, but sometimes people just get into tabletop RPGs to enjoy it, relax, and not have to think about the existential dread or the belief systems, or having to sift through different kinds of traditions and cultures. It's pretty loaded. I would have to be. I would. I would be lying if I said yes. It's newbie friendly. There is a big buy-in for Ascension, but at the same time, it shouldn't discourage people to try it at least once in their life. While there's a lot of lore dumps, while there's a lot of concepts that are kind of big in terms of um, like let's say nature and demeanor, and trying to get the grasp of this is what you show to people, this is your true nature, and those kinds of things might take some getting used to, but at the same time, it once you've experienced it, you'll realize that it's very centered on your character. It's very character centric. It focuses on the story your character has, and the system revolves around that story you made for your character. Yes, it's kind of a co-op, but at the same time, you don't need to be in a party of adventurers to make your story. You can be your own person with Ascension and Awakening. So soft no, but don't be discouraged, please.
No, I think it's really because the 20th anniversary edition was intended to be a compilation
Yeah,
volume for like everything. And before that,
everything.
Ascension had like 30 books to its name. And it's already a feat of magic in itself to stuff it all in one tome of 900 pages. But it
Yeah.
doesn't make for the most accessible, like, onboarding product.
Yeah, it does. It can get over. And imagine 30 bucks. 30 bucks, good lord. Then again, Dungeons and Dragons also has like 600 pages for just the core, and there's a lot of supplements. So I don't blame the 900. I think it's just more of the concepts that you tackle there. For people who are outside of World of Darkness, who's never tried World of Darkness, the dot system might be a new thing because they don't get to roll d20s, they roll d10s. And you want to do something, and you're gonna have to add your attributes and skill to it, and then it's a lot more free flowing when you get used to it. I think in terms of the action economy, it's a lot more free flowing, the systems, which is great. But when you try to understand what the traditions are, the years of culture, and the bits and pieces of what spheres and what they're capable of, you definitely need a very patient game master who will take you by the hand and be like, it's okay, it's alright. So it can be newbie friendly, but there are aspects of it that are not newbie friendly, that I will be honest with. So yeah, that is the first question. Oh lord, that's just the first question. So we're talking about. I just recently mentioned about game masters, and them guiding people into the world, especially new players. So I guess the burden of running the world of darkness for the storyteller. Storyteller, by the way, is the dungeon master or the game master for World of Darkness. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being very intensive, how much burden is it for the storyteller to run worlds in Mage? Specifically Mage the Awakening. Oh no. Wait, you got muted again. Oh my god, you got muted again. Wait. Okay, it's the paradoxes, guys. It's okay, it's the paradoxes. Hello? No, it got muted. Hello? Okay, I will just put you on glitch mode right now.
Hello? Does this work now?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, sorry about that. Um, I don't know if it's something on my Discord. Anyway, but yeah, I'd go for possibly a 3 in terms of difficulty for setting up the setting for Awakening. The reason for that is because a lot of what you're doing in the Awakening relies on setting up your um, I guess the society, the mage society, where the game is going to be set. Normally, in a lot of the um, World of Darkness games, this means for Awakening rather, this is like a city. The default one for first edition was Boston, but I think that there's an upcoming book right now for second edition that covers New York. And essentially, the thing with Mage is that you don't occupy, you don't operate in a vacuum. Your cabal exists in a like large Byzantine conspiracy of other mages that occupy the city, and you're literally in a society where everybody can fiddle with reality. So it's kind of like everybody running around has nukes. So it's a good idea to like be polite and be careful of everybody else and not, piss anyone off. So that's the way it is in Awakening. It gets a lot better. Um, it's better for people if there's a lot more other mages to interact with. Sorry, I think your
Oh, static.
audio's
Sorry.
yeah there. But yeah. So yeah, I guess the difficulty lies in that. There's not a lot of effort in terms of like having to quiz and like study all your players' paradigms just so you can confirm whether or not they can or cannot cast a certain spell. There's also no burden to actually have to run a solo session per character every time that they want to like level up. There's no I have to play your hidden spirit guide that behaves a certain way for each and every character to try and egg you towards enlightenment, whatever that enlightenment may look like. Um, So in terms of awakening this, it's very straightforward. This is the mystery. This is what's strange about the setting, and this is how it will affect everybody else. So this is how your enemies might take advantage of it. This is how you could take advantage of it, so that you can either further your own agenda. So it shouldn't be that hard compared to if you're a GM who's used to running homebrew or your own sort of games. It might be a little more difficult if you're the type to rely purely on modules, though.
Um,
But yeah, that's it on
yeah,
um,
that's interesting.
getting
So it's a lot more. It's intensive in a sense. In terms of like if you're really used to published adventures, but if you're used to the improv type, it's probably a lot easier. So
Yep.
that's interesting. There's also lovely, lovely chats from peeps. They said time proofing your mysteries, and Mike saying he wrote up a story set in Manila, an underground mayor of Intramuros. Cool, cool. Would love to hear more about that story you've set in Manila. Um, there's also a story you've set in Manila as well, Landas. So I'll definitely talk about that in a bit. In terms of the burden for the storyteller to world build, um, I'd like to argue that uh, World of Darkness generally is a burden, like a burdensome to the storyteller by default. But this is not to discourage as well the GMs. I just want to be honest about it. The thing about this is, especially for people trying to get people into it, is you have to be aware of the rules. You have to know when you can dictate certain roles to people. You have to be knowledgeable of that. In terms of the world building, I would say that you can put the exciting thing I've recently learned is that you can make it your own flair. You don't necessarily have to, like with World of Darkness, it kind of relies on the creativity and imagination of the storyteller to set up that world. And you want to be able to make that world a lot more relatable and for people to interact with. If you know your way around stories, if you know how to, go with the elements of the story and creating a world, um, like even getting inspirations from like the local scene, like Manila, or something you're familiar with in terms of like your favorite TV show, your favorite comics. That's something you can emulate and use for Mage. It's a lot easier to put things in there, puzzle pieces. Um, it's it is interesting to think. Yes, I think if you're used to publish hardcovers,
Hardcore.
hardcore, sorry,
not
hardcovers,
not just that like
hardcore.
elsewhere right about now, but okay.
But hardcovers or like published adventures, definitely it might be tricky because like you're gonna have to sift through all this like it's kind of like reading a historical book or like going through like the mythos of Lord of the Rings. It's not really generally a story. It tells you about the setting, it tells you about the world, but it's up to you as the storyteller to make do with that knowledge. So I would say I would say it's intensive in terms of four, uh, but if you're used to telling stories and making worlds, it drops to a two. Like if you're very comfortable with telling stories, then it becomes a two. Because for me, it was very easy to make world building and writing up stories because I'm a writer, so that helps with me with creating the world. But if you're not too used to writing things or creating worlds, might be difficult. So that's a four. So it varies from two to four. Also, hello Christine. Thank you for joining the chat. Thank you.
Oh, hello.
Yes, she said wood. So yeah, that's for our second question. And now for our last setup of these questions, what kind of crowd is attracted to these systems, or what kind of group culture is observed with these systems? So let's start with Awakening.
Okay. I think in terms of Awakening, you get guys who do enjoy the whole horror angle. Being able to cast magic and knowing that there's a price to pay if you overstretch your boundaries. You get to explore creepy stuff, but you're not completely powerless. If you like Call of Cthulhu, but would rather have more spells that don't drive you insane, then this should be right up your alley. Um, in terms of the I've had a lot of success for Awakening for players who didn't quite like Ascension because they didn't feel like having to defend the thesis every time they had to cast a spell. So in a way, the way that they streamlined Awakening helps in getting people straight towards playing the game and avoiding a notorious problem that Ascension had before, which was like very long-winded um, debates with the GM to try and justify that no, I really can cast this spell. Here in Awakening, it's more like, okay, do you have the dots for it? Yes, then go.
That is interesting, because uh that's an interesting take because that's usually how I don't know if I'm running Awakening via Ascension, because that's how I usually play Ascension. If you have a dot for it, that makes sense. And I usually ask for the reason why would you go about this. But beyond that, it's like if it fits, it fits. Let's go. If you have a dot for it, let's go. I wasn't too entirely strict with the paradigms though. I still
Right.
re- I still don't remember the 2 hour debate where my paradigm works or does not work. Oh, that's interesting because like for me the paradigm mostly has a play on like how the character goes about their decisions, like especially when I hear that they're acting like this and this is their paradigm in the background. Like it's not really. something I emphasize, like, oh, this is your paradigm sort of play. Now I'm
Right.
wondering if my play style is awakening. Like, I mean, GMing style is awakening.
Might be. I
Hmm.
mean, in terms of Ascension, there's a whole lot of emphasis on um the fact that reality exists as its own consensus, and the ease of which you cast spells is determined by how well reality, or basically the consensus, accepts your explanation. So there's a lot of justification on that angle, and that's where your paradigm comes in. It's what helps you justify it. But of course, again, you multiply that by the number of players, and then it gets confusing after a while. Um, Not to mention your average Ascension group sounds like a strange joke. A rabbi, an engineer, and a hacker walk into a bar, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and yet they're expected to somehow like work cohesively because they fight technology or something. So it gets interesting in weird ways. But again, that's why I guess if you don't use, or if you don't at least pay attention to the paradigm aspect of it, then yeah, I guess you would be playing more of an awakening style.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's interesting. Oh no, because like I think one of the things that attracted me to like the thing when you were talking about Mage, the awakening, the last TTRPG talk, you had me at horror, you had me at investigations, and like the simplification of it. Um, and I think that's what attracted me the most. Um, so like, but the way I play, the way I run Ascension is actually that like if you have a dot for it, if you don't, then it's not. And usually, um, I will not pitch a sphere. I will, because like usually the players are reliant for me to tell, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Usually, I do a subtle switch. You can use your skill instead because I will not allow this sphere to happen. That's my way of letting them down slowly. Of you can't use your magic right now to just use your skill for now, kind of scenario. Especially when I know that
Yeah.
they're acting on a whim, and it's
Hmm.
not really a paradigm they're acting on. So it's like,
Right.
here, do this skill check instead, and they're like, what? And then just go with it.
Yeah, I think in terms of what you brought up, it's actually fairly relevant. I mean, in terms of Ascension, it's not just your paradigm. Your skills have to line up. So if you're an engineer, it would be great if you actually had physics, for example,
Yeah.
or something to go with it. Because as when I GM Ascension, I will admit I'm a pain in the ass as a GM for Ascension because I'm a stickler for paradigm. So if like okay, you tell me that you're an EMT, emergency medical responder, to first responder essentially, and you're going to try and do something to someone's body with life. Okay, but have you studied enough to actually be able to pull that off? It's like, oh, I want to like take the blood clot from his brain. I'm like, okay, you know how to do it in theory, so that probably goes up a bit. But since you don't have like you don't know any of the actual techniques to back it up, uh, but you do have the thoughts in life for it, so fine. But uh, again, it's a whole. I feel like Ascension sometimes does a bait and switch. Like when you're teaching it to someone, it's like, okay, with two dots of three dots of forces, you can levitate,
Mm.
and they were like, oh, that's cool. And then when they suddenly start picking um their paradigms, and they're like, okay, I feel comfortable playing a voodoo priestess, for example. And then they're like, okay, I want to levitate now. You can't. Why? Because that's not in your paradigm. Sure, you can call on lightning, you can do weird stuff with fire, but floating a la superhero is not justifiable by your paradigm. So even if you have the dots for,
Mm.
you're not allowed to pull it off.
Yeah, like if ever, unless like they have this like chaos paradigm where I do whatever the fuck I want.
Right. Which I really don't like. That's the one thing I
Yeah.
really, really, really don't like about the soft paradigm that they added on the 20th anniversary edition feels like a cop out, but that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's a yeah, because I've been using most of the 20th anniversary. They've been a lot more flexible with the paradigms. From what I've seen, it's very
Yeah,
interpretable, like up to interpretation for the storyteller. So yeah, going back
yeah.
to
Hmm.
the groups and cultures attracted to these systems, I'm happy to say that in most of the games that I've played as a player and running games, the thing that attracts these kinds of groups is somebody who admittedly kind of got tired of 5e or kind of got tired of like the D20 setup, like the fantasy, or like especially with the influx of I think it was a good thing that you brought up in one of the groups. Trece helped get more modern supernatural stories interest, but beforehand, people kind of got tired with the fantasy setting. There's been a lot of people who kind of I wish my character could fit in a modern setting. I'm kind of tired of going to the medieval stuff. So it's people who have been playing a lot of games in the fantasy realm that they kind of wanted to try other things.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
certain people that are get attracted to these systems. It's not. I'm kind of sad that it's not their first choice, but that's fine. At least they're trying now, and that's totally fine. I don't think it's getting enough traction as fifth edition or Dungeons and Dragons. So them getting tired of medieval fantasy got them to my table. Also the kind of culture that I've seen so far when it comes to the games is, at least in my Ascension games and my table, is that it's people who really likes like the character storyline where um, getting a deep dive into their character, because like most systems is kind of like, yes, there is a form of characterization, but with 5e they do have this thing called personality flaws, ideals, bonds, but it doesn't really play much in the actual system. Then there's this system right now that incorporates all of those little bits and pieces of your character, which is like, oh, okay, I can do more things. Like me having a flaw or me having this vice actually does something in game. So I think it's the people that like character focus, at least on my tables, and more narrative stuff like the play by post I've done. They like they like character exploration. They like more focus on like what their characters can do. I can play this archaeologist that looks like Brendan Fraser. I can be this young up and coming UP professor who is into criminology, those kinds of things. It's much more niche characters that you don't usually get to explore in more systems, and World of Darkness Mage allows for that kind of exploration. So what those are the people that get attracted to that, which is a perk, because if more people um, want to do that, here you go. Here's the system. Come join the table. Come join the mage, kind of thing. So all right. So those are the setups for now for our arguments, and now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of the debates. Where
Hey.
we're gonna start throwing proverbial punches. um, it's all fun. It's all fun. Don't worry, guys. We consented to this.
Yeah, we can do this nicely.
Yes, we're gonna have a nice round for the rebuttals. So we're now gonna get into the pros and cons of the systems. One of the things that we're gonna tackle, there's a few, but there is this quantitative and qualitative style of gaming. So we're gonna take sides first. Quanti and quali. I know it's sorry if it sounds like research. Um, just
Stat 101, everyone. Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Welcome to size statistics. But okay. So the qualitative, more or less, is focusing on the descriptive side of things, while the quantitative, as the word suggests, is more on the numbers style. So, who's taking what side for this one? Um, I,
Well, I'll take the measures. I'll take Wally. Sorry, Quanti.
Okay, so you're taking the quantity side, and I'll be taking the quality side. So, uh, I, I guess we should start first. The quantitative style. What are the perks of it? What are the pros of it, and the cons?
Right. I guess in terms of the quantitative style, it's preferable because you want to be able to accurately define. Um, Sorry, I think that was a phone something. Anyway,
Oh,
so you want to be able to accurately define the dimensions of the effect that's happening. Awakening takes this to the point where you literally define the dimensions of your spell. How big is it? How many people can it affect? What's the potency of the spell? How long does it last? And like how much damage can it do? You can decide to affect anything from a 5 foot area around you to the size of a house or a building, and all of these things are laid bare in a system that is both um, reliable and consistent. So regardless of which one of the arcana you're using, you still have the same like measurement and units used to determine how many successes you'll need for that one roll to make the spell work. The difference for the New World of Darkness or the Chronicles of Darkness is that you really just need one success. So even after all of the formulas or the adding and subtracting of dice on the primary spellcasting system for Mage, in the end, it really boils down to like as long as you have one success, then you get the spell that you want, and it does exactly what you envision it to be. And that's really where I feel it shines because number one, it's fair. The literally the algebra or the formula, sorry, the formula is laid bare so that the players and the GM both engage the mechanics on the same level. You don't get this thing where, oh, the GM hand waves it and his characters can pull stuff, and then the players are like, okay, so how if I try something like that, I'll have to rely on the GM to eyeball a difficulty and a number of successes off the bat. And what might be true of one session might change the other session depending on how the GM feels you're performing. Um, which is admittedly from a GM perspective actually a very strong temptation. Like for example, okay, he wants to attack two characters with one spell. Let's just say that we add like you need just two more successes for that to happen, and then later on in another session you might end up like, oh, I'll need three successes for that to happen because you seem to be having an easier time, but I won't tell that. So but here you have it all there. It's the beauty, I guess, of having the mechanics all laid out in a way that everybody is forced to conform, is that you can't really cheat the system, and that's where I feel Awakening is more reliable and consistent in terms of gameplay. It is
yes.
hard, sure, and you get the other thing is the reason for a whole bunch of mechanics in Mage and why in Awakening rather, and why you have to take all these measures in consideration when you're casting is because for Awakening you're looking at uh, people who want something badly. You really just cast magic because it's the ultimate expression of want, of will, of desire, if you really want to go that far. And the game never tells you to put on the brakes. So the way that paradox works in Awakening is very different. It comes in when you over exceed what your mortal, you know, enlightenment is able to safely pull off. It's a gamble, and to some player characters and in certain situations, it's actually worth overexerting yourself, going beyond what you think is safe just to get what you want, because it's easy if you're like threatened, if you're casting a spell to save your life. But it's also interesting because nothing's stopping you from, okay, I have a chance to like mind control this subject, this person, this guy who's been an enemy to me all this time, and I have an opportunity to make that permanent. All I have to do is risk a little bit of paradox. And those are this decision making points that drill into a player even as they're deciding. It's a funny way for a mechanic to literally kick in and engage the player, and make them feel the same way that their character is feeling. Uh, yeah, I mean, in Tagalog, ginusto mo to. This is something that you really wanted, diba?
Yeah, I saw
But
the comment.
this
Ginusto mo to.
it's literally that. This is your fault. You chose this. You wanted this. You did want this, did you? Diba? How badly do you want it? And that's really where it comes from. And I think that's the beauty of it. They were able to take that whole risk reward sort of system, bake it in so that while you're trying to design your spell, you have to make that choice, and it's a deliberate one. So by the time you roll, everything hinges on that, whether or not it succeeds or not.
Ooh, okay. Cool. Really, really extensive. Just to bring up real quick, I made a poll in the chat for you guys to vote, qualitative or quantitative. I'm curious
Woohoo!
what the chat voted, what preference of style they like with Mage. So while we're discussing, feel free to vote. It's up for 10 minutes. Would love to see and tabulate out of the current viewership the concurrent on while we're discussing and giving our points for the debate. Like, who, what sounds great for you guys? Um, I like one shot man cannon. Oh, hello, Ziggs. Thank you for dropping by for the debate. You have really good points there, Jay. Going back to your Quanti, um, and it's really good to have some sort of a strong basis on what you can and cannot do, and if it's quantifiable. Like in terms of research, I myself would prefer quanti. Quali has just a lot of nuances that you have to consider when it comes to research. But in the mage aspect, of course, I'm gonna take quali. um, Bottom line is, before you actually get to understand the system in terms of the number side, it's not easy to understand what those numbers mean in terms of like um, one of the things I've recently encountered. I'll just bring up the game, uh, Jay's game. We've got to play Awakening with Jay for this one shot, and I think that we had a mixed table of people who are trying the Awakening for the first time. Me and I don't know if Seven tried it before, but a bunch of players who are new to it, and there are people who've had some experience, and then there are people who have been running games for quite some time. Um, the way I felt the numbers were, it felt like my first few months in MTG. I don't know what the mana means. I don't know what those numbers mean. I don't know what each and all and target it meant, like single and stuff. The concepts of the numbers in terms of learning curve, very difficult. And I always go for a cinematic type play when it comes to World of Darkness in general. I think it's a lot easier for people, especially if they're just getting in the system, to like, okay, you wanted to do this. Describe how you want to do it, and we'll have that roll and just convert it to successes. The quantity rate, I would just limit it to successes. It's much more easier to do that and then have the players have fun with the description on how their successes or their failures went. If they had a dramatic failure, how did they not notice that huge like this ghost coming towards them because their awareness and spirit failed in their check, so they had no idea there's this like malevolent spirit coming their way. I think it's a lot easier. Um, it's a lot easier to what do you call this? To put it in a descriptive sense, but it really depends as well on the play style of the GM, because there might be GMs who prefer a more like ground based like standard for how magic works. Like this is I need you to help me determine what these things are versus a free flowing let's just go with this description sort. Um, but for me, it's very difficult to get into the number side of things, especially like trying to determine what it means to have like how much mana can I cast for this reach for this many things, and how to determine those roles. Because the burden of the numbers falls on the player to think about versus the GM just simplifying it on your behalf. Which, again, I guess it's a matter of preference, but I think quality just helps introduce the game, and then later on, you can introduce the numbers slowly. I just, in terms of like game style, I really feel like going for description, because like people know the words. Like in terms of running for newbies, it's much easier for them to say, I would like to do this, and they describe it, as compared to, I would like to cast 4 mana to put this thing, and like I've yet to see a newbie start from the get go with numbers. Usually they tell you things with words, not numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Usually,
Hmm.
they don't talk about spell slots. They don't talk about like how much movement do they have in the map. Usually is, hey, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? And usually it's just a yes or no. Um, but again, it falls under like how then the capability of the GM to allow how much bullshit with those things, because you allow this now, it'll be a lot more difficult in the future to rein in on that standard because you allowed that in the first run. So it's very
Exactly. Yeah.
that's the tricky part when it comes to cinematic play, which you have to be very distinctive with your players, that that was cinematic play to get you guys in. Now here's here's how we're gonna do things the formal way. Um, I think Christine added Ascension and Awakening are actually both hard in their own way. Awakening is easier because the system makes it easier for fluff. Awakening tends to burden the GM to make on-the-spot decisions, so you all are going to argue about fluff for hours upon hours. Uh, I mean, I haven't played Awakening much, so I can't say how much burden. I think the burden for both systems falls
Yeah.
on
So
the
I think
GM.
Ascension was the one with a lot of arguing. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. The problem with with Ascension that we had before is really more of when again it's the whole I want to justify this effect. I want to be able to cast it. I have the dots in the spheres. I need to do so, but I have to now retrofit it with my paradigm to justify it.
yeah,
So from a player perspective, the burden actually lies on the player too. How do I bullshit the GM into accepting that this is something my character can do?
yeah. I think it's really like for me, it's a lot easier to just have the players describe things, but it's for the initials. It is good to have a standard. I think that's where the concept of DM discretion falls, where it's like how much, like if you put this ruling, you have to be consistent about it. If you're allowing this kind of like, kind of descriptive play, you have to make sure that the players don't feel short-handed later on when you suddenly don't do it. Like there has to be a lot of communication involved, and I think
Yep.
Quanti makes it simplified in the long run, and the quali makes it good for the now, for the right now, and the game uh, flow to just be a lot easier if they just describe things. So um, it is an uncanny valley, but I mean, like it's a hard middle ground. If there's a way to do both, then go and do both. If there's a way you can slowly teach the standard without impeding on the fun on that moment, especially um, if you don't want to dedicate like hours upon hours just trying to. Unless it's like tutorial mode, then that's fine. Like here's tutor mode. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. But it's usually through experience and the story and the flow of the session that players get to understand concepts. Like um, for me, the knowledge that I have for most of Ascension comes from my plays. Like the paradigm and the paradox play was like really subtly integrated into the storyline. So that's how I run most games. That it's usually the DM that says, "Oh, you can't do this. You just do this skill check instead." So I think it in terms of the number side, it's much easier to just put it under successes and failure sides because the players can understand that, oh, I need just at least 3 successes, 4 successes to get that, as compared to I have to compute this much so I know how much successes I need to do this one thing. I think the process to get that really takes a long time before they actually have fun. But again, if people want to go through that process, then that's fine. Like that's totally fine because like in the get go, and once they get to that point, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more streamlined. They don't have to like get a feel of can I do this? Can I not do this? Sort. So once they were able to answer their own questions, I think quantity is the way to go. Uh, but yes, quality. I go big for quality. Yeah, we're gonna segue now from the quantity and quality discussions. Uh, we are going to move now to uh ooh, okay. Okay, so given the time frame we have, there's a lot of questions here. So, but I'm just okay. I think we're just gonna move.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go through really quick ones, real quick.
Sure.
Who has the best magic system? Oh no no no. Okay, we'll jump to that one. Who has the best magic system um between Mage and Mage the Ascension and Awakening? Who has the best?
Awakening, I think, is easier to understand. Um, Mechanics wise, we can argue about the whole reach and everything, but both of them allow for you to cast like any spell. It's a very flexible magic system. Any spell you can think of, there's a sphere combination that will make that happen. The advantage that Awakening has is that the scale of effects that you can cast are a little stronger and require less dots. In Ascension, unless you have like accompanying dots in correspondence, time, life, or sometimes spirit, uh, you're severely limited in what you can do. Um, for example, in Awakening, you could technically cast a life spell on someone from across the room simply by just improving reach. Uh, in what do you call this? In Ascension, you'd need correspondence just to be able to do that, even if you have the life dots for it. So the dot combinations get weirder. Um, and given that you have a smaller selection of dots for distributing in an Ascension, you're actually less flexible than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will make my quick observances between two systems from the plays I've had. I realized that yeah, that is tricky because like you can't do certain things unless you have a dot on it, like the arete. Arete is like the system in Ascension that you need to get to be able to get a certain dot, and you can't have dots. And I mean, you could start with dots with everything, but that kind of spreads you out too thin, and you can only sense that on your first dot. You can only start to do some really fun stuff on the second dot and the third dot. Uh, and some combinations of things, like you wanting to send something from afar, you need a certain combination for that, which um, is tricky. And if you don't have a dot on it, for some reason you can't sense it, which is also weird because I think Awakening has this thing where they have a mage site, which
Yep.
just streamlines a lot of things that they don't have to roll for awareness every freaking time something magical
Yeah,
happens, which is a pain for some players. Like, why can't
it
I
is. It
sense
is.
this?
I would
Um,
retroactively put that into any Ascension game
yeah.
actually, and just tell people that rather than spend those extra dots that you have on awareness and alertness.
Yeah, awareness
Um,
and alertness.
yeah, because I mean it's an old system, so I understand it that there are certain traps in terms of the builds.
Hmm.
Like if you don't put points in awareness, you're seriously gonna have a hard time. But
Yeah,
nobody tells you this,
yeah.
so you're there to discover it until
Yeah,
again. So same thing with like resources in awakening. The assumption is you have whatever standard of living your concept has.
yes.
The number of dots that you have in resources is liquid funds above that.
Yes.
In Ascension, you have to go around and actually like buy up
Yeah.
to your level of resources. Otherwise, you're a hobo.
Yeah.
So
You start as a whole. I remember a kid didn't get one of the players I have for Lendas. When we started our first session, they did not have dots on awareness. Oh boy, it was a fun few sessions where they did not, like, the moment they got their XP, they're like, I'm investing on awareness. But when I saw the mage site, when I got to play your game, it's like, this should be a thing. Why is there awareness? Why is there so that's one of the glaring things that I think Ascension, it has a weak point in. And also the combination of dots is, from a starter player, it's gonna be very confusing. I remember when I made a rookie mistake of investing all my dots in entropy. And I wanted to do a lot of cool things, but I can't because I didn't have dots on a certain thing. Like, hey, can I use I think I got correspondence and entropy, and I was like, I want to detect this person. You can't because you don't have life or you don't have this data. And I was like, really? But I have three dots and no. So I immediately felt stifled even if I had unlimited power. You
yeah,
can't
I
do
think
it.
that's one of the things that you realize as a GM.
Painfully.
If you played both of them actually, in as a GM in Ascension, you pull the rug and basically disappoint your players often because you have to be the one to tell them, "I'm sorry, but you don't have what it takes. You need to be this tall to ride." That sort of always. It's like, "Oh, I want to pull this effect. Okay, do you have correspondence and enough for that?" Uh, oh, but I have life three. Then, sorry, but you need the correspondence for it because that's how the system is. And then, but it's not written anywhere on the description for correspondence much later. So if you're not careful about how you read through the spear descriptions and how they interact, which is something that you pick up over time and with experience, you won't actually know this, and you're in for a lot of disappointment as your GM basically tells you, "Sorry, but you built your character wrong."
Yeah, the problems of builds, which very disheartening as a player. Like, you realize on your first characters, your test ground, to realize there's a lot of limitations with the system. So, but over time, over a lot of experiences, and getting to know the system and getting acquainted to it more, you start to see, like, okay, I'll specialize in a certain aspect first, save up for this. Also, the experience points, very hard to come by with Mage. Um, but I understand why. Uh, like, you don't want to give them too much power from the get go. They have, especially if you have like a long arcing storyline, you don't want them to suddenly, like, they're just starting on the first base and suddenly boom, they can manipulate reality to just make this thing happen. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is tricky. Um, but I'm glad that I moved past the mindset of Mage being too OP when in reality there's a shit ton of limitations from it. And there's also this thing that I kind of appreciated um with Awakening, is that um I think they also do this in Ascension. about the traditions, but I had to do a jimmy of sorts to allow the players to choose their own spheres. But with um, Awakening, like they tell you you have a weak arcana, like this minor arcana, so it'll be a lot harder to invest on it. That's interesting because like um, the illusion of choice or too many choices gets very overwhelming for players. So putting a spot like, okay, there's this one weakness that you have, it gives me that Persona vibes where it's like you have all these like strong arcanas and then you have this one weak one. So I think that's a really nice gimmick. I would have to say I would give the best magic system point to Awakening. I'll put that. Even if I've been playing a lot of Ascension, there's been a lot of simplifications on the other end. The one thing I'm not fond of yet is the spell casting system.
Yeah, but I understand where you're coming from for that one. Actually, Mick and I figured out a good midway solution, but we'll talk about that and outside of the debate.
Yes, but in terms of the spellcasting system outside of it, like in terms of the Arcana, I think Awakening does have a strong point because, like, I think when they saw Ascension, they were like, how can we do this better? Because like it came out after, and
Yeah,
I
pretty
think
much.
and they solved a lot of issues that came with the magic in Ascension because it was too open ended for one, and at the same time stifling because you can have all these dots and then do whatever you want, but you need those dots, and it needs to be part of the paradigm.
Also,
So,
splitting entropy into death and fate is a big change.
oh yeah, they did split that positive negative side of entropy. Entropy was still a concept up until now. Is still I'm struggling with that. It's like what the heck does this do? It's like a you get to know if it's bad luck or good luck, and like woe and ween, and I'm just like okay, so it's kind of like I really have yet to explore that properly because when I put it on my first character, they weren't able to use it much, and then a lot of people are getting entropy in my later games, and I had to study it. And my general gist of it is like a luck-based kind of arcana, and that's it. Like I couldn't wrap my
S-
hand around it. I
Yeah,
had
it's yeah. Well, we can talk about that outside of the
outside of
debate.
the
But
yes,
yeah,
but
it's a long discussion if we have to go talk about each and every one of the spheres.
yeah, the spheres are. I wish there was a lot more simplification for it, and I think they did that with the Arcana. So TLDR, the best magic system between the two editions, definitely Awakening. I'm even giving my points to that. So, like Ascension's not gonna win it now. I mean, throw Ascension, but Ascension is fun for discovering and wanting to be very descriptive on like the type of magic that you like life and stuff, like a starter pack. You know, like you get through the first generation magic and you want to get used to it. That's it. But I feel like you guys will enjoy the magic more on Awakening, except spellcasting system. That's
Yeah,
it.
well, Ascension wins in terms of like pure flavor,
Yes, flavor
mostly
wise.
because yeah. So I'll give that considering that your paradigm again informs how you cast. So if you have really creative players, you get very interesting feedback out of that whenever they cast spells. You're always looking to see how they're gonna pull it off.
I think the paradigms, the belief systems is what really got me like the interest is peaked for the magic. In terms of like trying to get into the character lore and like getting into the mindset of it, like that's great. But the actual practice of the magic is just pain, headaches for the storyteller. Usually, I avoid combat like the plague for Ascension because I don't want to get into the numbers of, um, like getting into all the tricky stuff. So usually, I put it under cinematic almost always. There is a turn order, but it's always cinematic because getting to the combat of it for like I still haven't fully grasped um, some concepts for that. Oh, thank you, lazy flux for following. Appreciate that. Thank you for joining in the stream. We are getting to the next point of our TTRPG debate. So, next is I think you brought this up in one of our in the previous talk, the TTRPG talk we had, um, where Ascension can come off as insensitive in terms of its representation. And I kind of wanted to pick your brain on that. Um, like, from what I can tell, they kind of have the similar issue with Awakening from when I read the orders in a sense. They're kind of vague still, but um, like the what was the problem with the representation in Ascension?
Well, the I guess the biggest concern in Ascension is that if you if you don't adequately research your character's chosen paradigm, you can be prone to like basically relying solely on stereotypes. So that opens you up to all sorts of like oversimplification. It's possible for you to reduce a respect sort of practice, for example, into just I'll do this to cast the buff. And if, for example, let's see, Akashic Brotherhood, particularly the Wulong. If you are a Taoist and you see somebody playing a Wulong character that obviously hasn't read up beyond the basics of, oh, he has like a wooden sword and uses I Ching and does all these things. Uh, yeah, it you can end up um, minimizing the I guess the importance of these practices to the native people that actually practice these things. And you know of course it's all in terms of intent, and nobody hopefully goes into these games with an intent to offend uh, the particular sources of these things. But on the flip side, it's an opportunity for you to actually do further research on whatever paradigms there are. I mean, there's no better source of a paradigm in Ascension than actually doing your research on modern, or not just modern, but basically real world occult or spiritual practices, um, or even new age thinking, or even cutting edge science. It's a game that encourages you to do a lot of research and basically find that spark of wonder and thing that you can pull off. And I think uh, it's a responsibility of the player and the GM as well for an Ascension game to portray it in a respectful manner, as opposed to like say Awakening, which is literally, oh, our magic is from Atlantis,
I
so
know. I was like,
pew,
huh?
diba? So that's it. But thankfully, it's ever since they moved on to second edition, that no longer became the major focus of the
Yeah.
setting
I
in
had
second
so
ed.
many questions when they said like all magic originated from Atlantis, and I was just like, that's the one gripe I have
Yeah, it was
with.
super contentious in first edition, so they dropped it in second ed.
Yeah, because like one of the things that one argument I have, which is like another one, is directed towards awakening. Because like with Ascension, in terms of its representation, I like to think like it's not insensitive because it's similar to how Legend of Five Rings work. This is like you get to explore culture this way. Games are much better when it's just more than a game, when you get to experience like the local scene or try to
Right, right.
explore a culture that way. I
Hmm.
always like I believe that TTRPGs are a good way to um, get to explore a culture, get to explore a place that you would not otherwise have explored. Same with like if we can explore an imaginary world where there are freaking dragons, why can't we go to a place where we can see what it's like to be part of the enlightened in the eastern section.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appropriation. Probably because I'm Asian, might be different when it's. I have like this similar mindset where it's like as long as it doesn't come off as you're here to offend. No, you're here to appreciate the culture. You're here to understand that this fictional setting does have these kinds of traditions, and we can't help that the only basis we have is stereotypes. That's why most of the games I have follow the local scene, because I know what the local scene's like. I know what the traditions are here. So if you can emulate something that's part of your culture, something existing, and have the people experience it, I think people should be more open to having their culture explored, like in a safe manner. I think this is like a TTRPGs are a way to have like a virtual tourism. Here, this
Yeah.
is how our world works. Here's
Yep.
how our thing, and it's safe.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than um, having it portrayed like on film, or like because you get to experience it, you get to make stories about it. So
Hmm.
I would politely disagree that it only becomes insensitive, insensitive when you're there to like, oh, I want to play like a Chinese character and be very offensive about it, and that's already like, okay, this is
Yeah. Essentially, virtual blackface. Yeah.
yeah, that's already the tricky part. So even like people are becoming aware of it as well, like, oh, am I allowed to play this character and stuff. That's why I always encourage, like, if ever you're, especially for foreigners who like try to get into like local scenes, because like I've ran Durian Hotel, which is called Cthulhu. They kind of had struggled, like, oh my god, I'm not from the Philippines, how do I play this? Play an expat. You're an outsider looking in. That's totally fine if you're not comfortable playing this actual character. And you're allowed to do that. You know, you're allowed to play a foreigner in the world, because it's very much a thing in the Philippines. There's a lot of foreigners here that get into the Philippines, and that there shouldn't be a hindrance to trying to explore that culture or that kind of world because you're from a different culture. I think that's like a reverse thing. I don't know how I don't want to call it reverse, but we don't want to gatekeep. Like, you're allowed to appreciate and spectate on the same distance. So that's my take. But in terms of the Atlantis, you brought it very well. Just a short thing. Minor defense. Mages having a common culture removes creativity in general. So like everybody's from Atlantis. I don't think they have. You said it's not in second ed, but What's your stance on the matter?
Well, all magic comes from a singular source. Doesn't quite remove. I think the issue here is where are you defining creativity? What kind of creativity are you saying is removed when you take away, like, are are you talking about flavor,
Yeah,
like the
the,
way
the,
it
the
looks,
general flavor. Yeah, because like in terms of nine traditions, you can tell where the inspiration's from, like from different cultures, and then if you
right?
just put it all as one singular source, like, oh, this is Atlantis,
Right.
it kind of
So
removes that.
I think the best way to look at it is to look at Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everything is bending, but it doesn't constrict your creativity. Your
Bending.
effects are still something that you can do. Diba? It's and there are new ways to do bending once you figure out like bizarre combinations. Diba? It's essentially that. It's an undercurrent of a there's a single paradigm that fuels all the magic in Atla, and that would be bending. Diba? You interact with it a certain way. Different tribes have different mudras and sutras and other yantras that they use in order to activate it or modify it. They specialize in different ways, but it's all bending. So that's how you look at it in terms of awakening. It comes from one source, sure, the supernal. Um, let's not even bring Atlantis into this because Atlantis muddies the waters, sadly.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, it's that. It's all this magic comes from a singular source. There's a people that have figured out how to interact with it. They've codified it. They found ways to make it work, and ultimately, that's what you end up with. You get magic. You can get creative about what you want to do with it, but you don't have to like dress it up using real world cultures to justify it.
Yeah. Um, I just yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. Um, the polite the polite disagreement for me for this is, I like to think that there are different sources of magic. That it's not just one singular source. Like,
Then
um,
you are perfect for the free council,
yay!
who recognizes that humanity is magical. So they look at human traditions and all these things because they in all of these things there's always a nugget of the supernal in it. So yun, that's
Yeah,
so they take on these things, diba? So it doesn't have to be all tech. As far as free council is concerned, there's art, there's all these things. So there's art, there's dance, there's whatever it is. So in fact, in first edition Awakening, there's something called the magical style, which basically grants additional bonuses based off whether or not you incorporate a real world magical practice into your casting style. So it's something that can, I guess, show up, but it doesn't have the same focus as it does in Ascension, obviously, because societies matter more in
yeah,
Ascension.
yeah. I like we live in a society joke. But I just like I as much as like Supernal is an interesting concept in the magic styles, and like from that singular source, a lot of things came out. I still like that it's a thing that I guess if we're gonna simplify it, it's just the source. What it happens after. It just it kind of removes like the fun of like finding it elsewhere. But it's like all one singular thing. For me, I understand where it's coming from, but at the same time, I feel like it finding the same source in everywhere else instead of like it's different sources of magic from different societies. It kind of takes away from like the uniqueness of it, which like I guess it can get creative from outside the source. And everyone all magic is the same. Ascension is that everyone all magic is the same. Is it though?
Oh no, actually,
No.
all
From what I remember,
supernal
no.
magic is the same.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the god machine is something entirely different, and
yeah.
even the mages can't
Yeah,
figure that out.
that's where I'm thinking from in terms of the magic my God Machine inspirations and stuff because they treat it as a
Hmm.
different source. It's always a different it's a different iteration. The from what I've read with Awakening, it's all one and the same. I was like, huh? So I just like the aspect that it's always a different thing. Even if let's for argument's sake, Supernal can take on different forms in different realities, it still takes on home the concept that there is a different Supernal in a different space in a different time and it's a different source of
Hmm.
itself. So those kinds of things. I just prefer like there's a distinct source for magic, which is
Okay,
allowed in Ascension and God
that
Machine.
might be a disappointment to you then, because the
Yeah.
ultimate point of Ascension is discovering that all magic is the same.
No.
Yeah, look at the rules of what happens once you get a rete. You
Uh.
actually divest yourself of your tools because it eventually all funnels down to will.
Oh. Okay. I guess I didn't
So
get to that part of it.
so your paradigm exists as a crutch. It's there to justify your magic. But as you walk towards ascension, you discover that all other forms of magic are valid because if you ignore the trappings, it's actually all the same.
Oh, okay. So that's what Chrissy was asking. Like the concept of ascension is that
So there we go.
at the end of it, all of it's the same. No, I refuse. I refuse. No joke.
I reject. I like my tools. Come join the technocracy. Um, because the
Yeah,
technocracy actually keep their tools. They're not allowed to divest tools. It's just part and parcel of who they are.
yeah. I just don't. Uh, I'm fighting my own ascension at this point. um, I just don't like that it's all the same. I guess it's just me trying, like, oh my god, if I do this to the kids, they're gonna like feel my pain. But it's essential you don't need your tools. Yeah, but it's It's more like the source. Like I don't want it to be just coming from one singular source. Like I can get it from other things, but eh,
But that assumes that your magic doesn't come from you. You're divesting yourself of your accountability.
yes, no, no, I'm just kidding.
Diba? And that's the thing. If you're willing to divest yourself of your accountability for magic, you don't deserve it.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, that
Diba? It's an expression of your will. I want it to happen. Even in
yeah.
Ascension, it's the same thing. So if it
Mage
comes
is
from someone else,
accountability.
diba? It's all about accountability. Parang ano, so what happens is like it's kind of like D&D. Oh, I read it in a book. So,
What? Ginusto
diba?
mo to. Yeah, I mean, I guess willing it into existence is the point. It just it's always the concept of source. Like I like it. Like if, oh my god, if all in the end we're all just the same, it's just like there's no joy. This does not bring me joy. Like I want to be different. I wanna be able to say I'm different, and I got my
Different.
magic source from kopong kopong, like from Lola or Lolo, like passed down from generations, kind of thing. But I guess it's just a matter of flavoring. But in the
Mhm.
mechanics side, no, oh my god, that's like I literally find out, Ma, why did you cancel the game again? I'm going through some existential journey.
Existential crisis. No, but no, but that's the thing. I mean, you in even in Ascension, the cool thing is like all of these methods are valid, right?
Yes.
You have this mad scientist, you have this rabbi, you have this martial artist, and they're all kicking ass in the name of magic. Um, and then somehow they all work despite the fact that each and every one of their paradigms insists that they are the one true way.
Yeah.
So and diba, if you don't take a moment to stop and think about that, then parang sayang naman, I
Yes.
guess.
I guess yeah. We can politely. I guess in time, I will learn the way.
No
In
problem, no
time,
problem.
but for now, yeah. I guess it is good that in terms of the core question is that having a common culture or like common source of magic, it doesn't necessarily remove the creativity. I guess we can safely answer that no,
Yeah,
that's
there are
not the
different
case.
ways of creativity, but yes, in terms of flavor, sure, I'll concede. It's more flavorful for Ascension. You can get creative about how it's done.
Yes.
But if it's a creativity in terms of how do you solve this problem, then both of them do it the same way naman.
Yes. Yeah. They both branch out for like whether or not the magic is under a same source or different sources, it's still creative on how you go about that. Yes. Oh my god, still going through the existential. No, no. Okay, we're gonna move forward to. I think we can just have one more question before
Yep.
we end
Yeah, sounds
this
good.
debate.
Sure.
I think this is a good question to ask. This game of infinite possibilities offers countless rules, endless options, and a meta plot which challenges all. Uh, but the most dedicated players, and not many will want to play. So I guess this is going back to the concept of what I mentioned before. This unlimited possibilities, all this like options, it actually makes people not want to be part of this game. Do you agree or
I
disagree?
do. I do, which is why I prefer Awakening.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't I mean you go through the 20th anniversary book and count how many optional rules are there in the call out boxes.
There is a
And
lot.
then check out how many appendices there are that detail alternative rules or build up on concepts like the paradigms and such. Then add the fact that Awakening does not have a meta plot
Yeah.
as compared to Ascension. Then you can see where I'm coming from. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot more local. It's kind of like how Vampire the Requiem kind of helped make it much more accessible to Vampire
Yes.
the Masquerade, right? Because you don't have to slug through 5 years of Vampire the Masquerade to understand where things are going. Like, no, you can't play Baali because, diba? Stuff like that. In Requiem, what matters is tonight. what's happening with you tonight? What's your undeath tonight? And that's all that matters to actually play and tell a good vampire story.
Yes, that is true. Um, and like Christine, guess who read it all? Points at
So,
Jay.
sorry, I have shelfies upon shelfies of old books.
Yeah, but that's actually good. And I would agree that um it really was hard to get the people that I wanted to play in like mage games when they started to see all the spheres, when they started to see all of this like things, especially when they even if they played vampire, it really threw them off because of like the overwhelming option of choices. And I think um, there's a need to streamline it, like in terms of like starting them with pre-gens or like asking them what kind of concepts they want and curating that because it's very difficult for people to think of like a game that allows so much shit to fly.
Right?
And
Yeah, definitely analysis paralysis fodder right there.
yeah. So they get paralyzed with like, oh shit, I don't even know what to do. Like they just get stumped. And uh, so I would sadly agree that the buy-in's gonna be really hard unless they really want to try it, or it's like you have to anchor it down to um, some series that they're familiar with, or some concepts that they're open to trying, or you really in my case, you really have to oversimplify a lot of things just for them to get to a certain place where you get the middle ground. Um,
Right, right.
I do like I do like the pitch you made where it's like it's Requiem. I was like, huh? Like
It
Requiem.
is.
Requiem. I do like the like in terms of Requiem. I do like the meta plot where it's like all the clans died. These are the only ones that survived. This is the post-war. This is great. Like everyone's dead. These are the only things, and you guys have to follow these certain clans to keep to the keep to the little dance of the nightlife. And I do like that. I do like that they simplified Masquerade. I still have my qualms with Masquerade. That's why I like Requiem. But
Fifth edition? Oh no, I'm
a lot of people like no offense to some people who have been pitching it to me. Sorry, Seth, but I really don't like. I would choose Requiem any day over V5. But I'm happy to say I went through a V5 session, and um, I just try to focus on the character. I try to ignore my qualms about the mechanics to enjoy the storyline. And we're already on our season finale tomorrow. So yay!
oh nice. Yeah.
Season finale. We've been playing for months every Tuesday, but V5 is really like it's okay. It's alright. I mean, like, I would choose.
Yeah, yeah.
We've had a debate in the first debate. For now, it's Mage, and I would agree that I guess we would agree in the sentiment like this is a game of infinite possibilities. Even myself, before I started to play games in 2019, I was anti-mage. Like, it's just you let a lot of shit fly. It's not gonna be good for anyone. It's not gonna be good for the GM. It's gonna be a headache. Why would you put your storyteller through so much shit? That because like there was this one time when I was running Requiem, they were like, "Would you ever try playing mage?" And I was like, "No." I was so anti-mage because of that very concept. Like, there's just too many things you can do. And what's the point if you're not gonna allow? These are my verbatim. What's the point of playing a game if you wouldn't allow any sort of limitations? And now, going through Mage, there are a lot of limitations, so that's great.
And I guess again, both in Ascension and Awakening, they actually both give the same advice. It's not about stopping your players from doing what they want. It's really just following up on what happens next, because
Yes,
it's really you can do anything you want. Now, congratulations, hero, you broke everything. This is
the
lie on this
consequences.
bed of crap that you've made for yourself. Everything is on fire. Good job breaking it, hero.
Yeah, it's like
So yeah.
you've made your bed, now lie in it. I like the
Now lie
concept.
in it.
I like the concept of consequences. Um, with World of Darkness, it does provide a lot of like things. The decision you made today is gonna bite you in the ass in the next session. So I do love that. I do love that aspect. Despite the game of, despite the infinite possibilities and the choices that might paralyze you, I really think people should try more Mage because you being able to experience playing a modern day Mage is always a fun and interesting thing. And there's just something about opening your mind to just trying a system that kind of you feel powerful and helpless at the same time. it's that's it. It's a unique experience, and from coming from someone who hated Mage before and is now running games for it, definitely you guys should definitely give one of the systems a try. I guess in this debate, I think in closing, uh, the I think we answered most of the we answered most of the questions. So in closing,
Yeah.
we will have our closing statements, basically the takeaways of this debate. We are officially ending the debate. We've made our defenses and our rebuttals. We made our setups for both systems, and now with all the information we've presented to the lovely people listening and tuning in right now, um, let's close the arguments per se with our final takeaways on each of our systems. Starting with Awakening. What are the takeaways?
I guess the takeaways for Awakening is that if you're looking for a game that delivers on horror, has a modern and streamlined system, and gives you an opportunity to really push the drama of being someone who can do things that are, I guess, uh, beyond mortal ken, so to speak, and dealing with the fallout of the hubris that follows, then Awakening is your thing. It might not be the best system for emulating certain cultures, but ultimately it's there to deliver the whole question of now that you have ultimate power, it's less a question of can you and really more of should you and what follows after. And if you're willing to ride, take a ride on that particular train and really lean in onto the mechanics of the Chronicles of Darkness, which actually rewards you for actively getting yourself into trouble, because that's actually how you gain XP, then you're in for a fun time. You're gonna end up with a character that has more than their fair share of ups and downs, and it'll definitely be a memorable experience.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that lovely takeaway. I just needed to. There you go. Awesome. So I had to remove some bots that went through the chat.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, I guess in my takeaway, like, how do I give a good takeaway without really good one? I hope you guys enjoyed this debate between the mages. I think given my experience with Ascension, um, definitely with with the games that I've played and the things that I've ran, you definitely want to make the story more about uh, what it's like to come out from like a sleeper state into like getting into this world. So you you have to make it a point that when you're introducing the system, it like beyond it being character centric, um, you want to make it a point that their actions and everything that they do has to reflect their nature, their demeanor, and their paradigm. They can't just Like the players have to understand that there are certain rules in the world. There are certain existing institutions and groups that may want them or not want them. Like you kind of treat it like the real world. There's, you know, there's existing things already set in place when we were born into the world and learning how to adapt to it. You don't want to. There's a tendency to culture shock them with a lot of lore. So the way you want to do Ascension, if ever you do want to try Ascension, is to have them explore it. I think that's the general concept I had for Lendas, where it's like, uh, Lendas, by the way, is kind of like a pathway, if you're gonna translate it to English, and just exploring it, exploring your path. I think, while Awakening is fast paced and it's a lot more like, investigative, and feels like, those occult investigative types with consequences when you deal with magic. The one thing I like about Ascension is, um, character exploration. You get to explore that character and in a way help understand their strengths and weaknesses, what they can and cannot do. It's a learning curve. And if you're willing to go through that slow process of taking each step and slowly learning things of the world, it's kind of like real life, but magic. So, that's my pitch for Ascension. But definitely try either one of the mages. That's actually my takeaway. Try either one of these. I think they're both fun in their own way, and they're kind of like in the same vein. Um,
Definitely.
so, at one point in your lives, do try these games and, um, play a mage. Play whatever it is. Be whatever it is you want to be. Is But consider the consequences though if you're ever you want to be what you want to be. Like as Christine would say, ginusto mo to. That's gonna be a
It's,
motto.
yeah, it's good. It's good. It has to be a motto for any mage game set in the Philippines.
Yes,
Ginusto mo to.
ginusto
Ginusto mo
mo
yan.
to. But yes, thank you Jay for the lovely
Problem.
almost 2 hour stream for this lovely debate. It was a
Hmm.
good conversation. And
Yeah,
is
that's
there
fun.
is there anything you'd like to plug as we end the stream? Anything?
At the moment, probably no. Not at the moment. It's just I don't have any upcoming just yet, but maybe soon.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do a bit of plugs. Guys, there is a Facebook group called World of Darkness PH. You definitely should check it out if you guys are looking for any games. World of Darkness set in the Philippines, or if you're from the Philippines, check out the Facebook group. I think you guys can search out World of Darkness PH. It's run by Ches, from what I remember. It is Ches, and I don't know if you're admin there, but the World of Darkness
No, I'm not.
PH. But yeah, it's Ches and Cole. Feel free to follow that group. And of course, a reminder for people. I've given my schedule in Discord, but I'll give you guys a heads up. This week it's gonna be a pretty busy week for Den Mother. Got a lot of things going. So tomorrow I'll be doing a GM prep for my July 24th fundraising stream. Tomorrow I will be working on overlays, roll 20, and fixing up the characters. If you guys want to come by and chill, I'll be fixing stuff tomorrow for that. And for the afternoon, because like as I mentioned, I have Vampire, the F5 game is set in New York. Tomorrow it'll be our finale, so I'll just be here in the afternoon to do some prep. Wednesdays I have Changeling the Lost character creation. If you guys want to see me finalize all.
Fantastic game. Very, very fun.
Yes, I still need to wrap my head around contracts, so I'm dedicating the entire Wednesday to finish all the sheets. I already have their ideals and their concepts, so hopefully I'll be ready in time for Friday. Thursday is my Pains and Chill stream, but it depends if I'm gonna do something more for that. I will not stream on Friday because it is the first day of HardCon. If you guys want to support HordeCon, we have it on Friday and Saturday. This coming Friday and Saturday, we have some tables that will be going through the starter adventure of the Hordelands, the Tavern League Golden Way. So you guys can check those out. And Saturday is the fundraising stream. Woo! Okay, I got my 4 players. We've had to meet the players last Saturday, and this Saturday is when they will play their characters as they venture into the Hordelands. We're hoping to raise at least $200, which will go to funding the. Oh, thank you, Quinn! Thank you for subscribing! Thank you so much. Good morning. I think it's morning there for you. But yeah, PortCon this Friday, and then like July 8:30, 8:30, no, 8 8 PHT, 8 p.m. That's when we start the stream, and we will be going through the Hordelands. Any amount goes a long way. We're hoping to get to 200 or whatever it is raised for that stream. Totally fine. We're hoping to get those funds so that we can do the charity stream, charity event this coming December. It'll be 2 days and it'll be dedicated to the All Father, and the proceeds will also go to COVID-19 pandemic relief. We're helping all the NGOs and we'll be distributing the funds we raise for that. So we need the money to get to that charity. So yes, that's it for now. Thank you guys for joining the
Right, thanks everyone.
debate. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you, Jay, for sitting in and
No problem.
debating with me for Awakening. And see you guys on the next stream. Bye.
See you. Bye.